This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Jay Cohn. The young Hardin girl killed by her father last April was beaten to death with a belt.
Those horrific new details admitted today by the killer himself as he changed his plea to guilty.
Q2's Asia Gore was in the Bighorn County courtroom today and is here tonight to bring us the shocking details. Asia.
Jay and Jeanelle, the victim was only 2 years old when she was violently beaten with a belt by her father, who admitted today he had no reason to even be upset with her. 23-year-old Dana Redding Jr. pleaded guilty in Bighorn District Court to the charge of deliberate homicide for the death of Isabella. As part of a plea agreement, prosecutors will dismiss charges of aggravated assault and assault with a weapon and recommend a sentence of 50 years at the Montana State Prison. Redding said little at today's hearing, but answered questions about the assault. He admitted he beat his daughter repeatedly with a belt until she died, but he said he did not intend to kill her. Redding's wife, Cavanna Grace George, allegedly knew Redding had beat their daughter before, but never reported the abuse. She still faces a charge of criminal child endangerment. Authorities arrived at the home and transported the girl to the hospital, where she was then pronounced dead. Medical staff said the victim had severe bruising all over her body and an open head wound. Redding is set for sentencing in January. Jay and Jeanelle.
Thanks, Asia.
And Asia tells us that Cavanna George, the victim's mother, still maintains her innocence.
Can a city employee serve as mayor? Well, that question in front of Laurel for its mayor-elect.
Q2's Dustin Kleeman attended tonight's meeting in Laurel, and that meeting came with a clear legal answer. Dustin.
Good evening, Jay and Jeanelle. The short answer is no. A city employee cannot also become mayor. Laurel Mayor-elect Dave Wagner was told he will have to pick his current position as water treatment operator or the city's next mayor. The topic was discussed at tonight's council meeting. Here's the issue. Under Laurel's charter, the mayor has complete authority to terminate employees of the city.
I have a heart for Laurel. I see what's going on in Laurel. I see the things that need done, and it seems like they're not getting done. That's why I ran for mayor, and that's why the people elected me.
The problem is the positions are incompatible. They're not compatible positions. If one was not supervising the other, if one could not terminate the other, we wouldn't have this problem. It's directly in your charter.
Wagner says he doesn't want to challenge the legality of the city's position, but won't give up. He has until January 2nd to make his decision. If he declines the mayor position, council would then interview and appoint someone for the position, which comes with a $10,000 salary. Jeanelle.
All right, thanks, Dustin. A new warden at the helm at Montana State Women's Prison here in Billings. And after her first full day in the job, Warden Janny Hansen sat down with Q2's Samantha Harrelson to talk about what she hopes to bring.
When I was in high school, when I was in college, this is what I wanted to do. So it's kind of a dream come true that I get to be the warden. It's still a little hard to get used to that Warden Hansen name. But it's always what I wanted to do, is to help people.
Warden Jenny Hansen is a Billings native, graduating from Billings Central High School before going to college to pursue a career in law enforcement.
When I started here in 2009, I really started to develop a passion for gender-specific care for inmates. It's very important to make sure that there's gender-specific care for the females here, and that we look at things a little bit different through different eyes, because the women are different. We all are different.
Hansen spent most of her career in probation and parole, specifically dealing with those battling mental illness. Most recently, she was the Eastern Region Bureau Chief for the Division of Probation and Parole, overseeing 10 field offices while implementing new procedures and championing the use of evidence-based practices like the risk and needs assessments to ensure more individualized and effective care.
98% of these women are coming back out to the community, so what can we do inside the prison to help habilitate them? What programming can we offer to them? What can we do so that they return to their respective communities and be successful? We know that 80% of the women have some kind of trauma in their life, and there's a whole lot of intricate details to help with that. And I think that's the biggest goal that I have, is to ensure that we're using evidence-based practices with gender specifics, as well as making sure we're trauma-informed while keeping the community safe.
In Billings, Samantha Harrelson, MTN News.
Thanks, Samantha. Now, Warden Hansen also says she wants to improve the relationship and understanding between the prison and the community. She hopes to do that by educating the public on some of the beneficial programs run at the prison.
In the nation's capital, Senate Republicans are racing to pass a tax bill by this weekend in hopes of sending that bill to the president by the end of the year.
But easier said than done. Similar to the showdown over health care, the GOP is trying to pass a tax code rewrite over Democratic objections. As of tonight, it's still unclear if the bill has enough votes to pass.
Front and center is Montana Senator Steve Daines, who says in its present form he cannot support the bill. And Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin says he too is opposed due to concerns that he has over tax breaks for major corporations. Now, there are 9 other Senate Republicans who have concerns with the bill. Another 15 GOP senators have even yet to comment on the measure, so their position is still unknown. Today, that GOP bill did pass out of the Senate Budget Committee, but it was on a close 12-11 party line vote. Just another indication how this bill's future is still too close to call.
The next stop for the bill, the Senate floor, for what promises to be a lively debate.
So as this tax reform debate heats up, Montanans want to know how the bill affects them.
MTN Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison crunches the numbers.
Tax cut legislation in Washington is a swiftly moving target these days, but experts at the Montana Department of Revenue have analyzed its likely impacts to Montana income taxpayers. Based on an early version of the tax cut bill before the U.S. Senate, here's some of what they found. Overall, the 500,000 Montana households who file federal income tax returns would pay nearly $800 million less in federal taxes next year if the bill passes. About 1/3 of those households would see only minimal changes to their federal tax bill, less than $50 a year. Yet nearly 2/3 of the taxpaying households in Montana would see a reduction of more than $50 a year, or at least 2% of their tax burden. Also, a huge chunk of the reductions flows to upper income earners. Nearly half of the entire estimated cut in Montana, $386 million, goes to the top 3% of earners here, the approximately 15,000 households making more than $196,000 a year. These households would get an average tax cut of almost $26,000 each. Now let's look at the middle tier of Montana households, those earning between $20,000 and $64,000 a year. This group would get an average cut of about $700 a year, and almost 80% of these 200,000 households should expect to see their taxes cut by more than $50 a year. In the lowest earning third of Montana households, about 70% would see little or no tax changes under the bill, but the average reduction per household would still be about $290 next year. It's estimated that 1/4 of this group would see tax cuts of more than $50 a year. Only about 1% of Montana households are expected to pay higher federal income taxes under the tax revision bill, and most of those would be in the middle income ranges. Democratic U.S. Senator John Tester says he's a big no on the bill, which passed out of committee Tuesday. He says it explodes the deficit and benefits wealthy out-of-staters instead of Montanans. Montana's Republican Congressman Greg Gianforte notes that the House tax cut bill does not lower the top income tax rate and says it gives benefits to all income categories. Republican Senator Steve Daines says he'd like changes in the Senate bill to ensure smaller businesses are treated fairly. The State Revenue Department analysis did not analyze the impact of the bill's corporate tax cuts in Montana. Still, we have a pretty good idea of who would benefit from these cuts directly and by how much. Now we'll see if Republicans can pass a bill. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thank you, Mike.
And again, the full Senate vote is expected later this week.
Well, oil is again flowing through the Keystone 1 pipeline. A section of that pipeline in South Dakota had to be shut down 2 weeks ago after leaking 5,000 barrels of crude oil. TransCanada, the company that operates the Keystone, said the pipeline was restarted under reduced pressure. But the restart comes on the same day that Keystone investors were told that the proposed XL pipeline will move forward. TransCanada says it's now working with landowners in the state of Nebraska to secure the rights to build that new pipeline. TransCanada, though, says it's also asking the Nebraska PSC to reconsider that alternate route that was part of the state's approval decision last week. TransCanada says that alternate route will cost the company more and will delay the project even further. The proposed Keystone XL is planned to pass through eastern Montana from Alberta, eventually ending in the state of Nebraska, where it would connect to an existing pipeline to take crude oil to the Gulf Coast.
Turning to weather, some snow here in Montana. We expect that. That's normal, but really, Bob?
This is hard to believe because I
We're
know.
just a few days away from Hawaii.
Yeah, this is bizarre. I've got $1 million idea for you. Let's all get bumper stickers that say, I skied Mauna Kea.
There we go.
Let me show you why. This is Mauna Kea. This is the observatory up there. That's that big volcano up on the big island of Hawaii. And look at the snow. They got a winter storm warning up there, expecting 8 inches of snow on the big island of Hawaii. Now, that sounds kind of unusual. That happens because it's at 9,200 feet. So you can see that happening. But it just I found it interesting. Big Sky had 7 inches of snow yesterday. They're going to get more in Hawaii than a Big Sky. 26 miles southeast of Immigrant had 7 inches, 6 inches by Cook City, 5 inches by Nye, and about 4 inches over there by about 13 miles northeast of Wellsal. So they had some snow there, and it looks like another batch of snow moving in soon. We'll have more about that coming up in a few more minutes. Aloha.
Thank you so much,
You may
Bob.
want to take a fleece with you over there, Jim.
Yeah, no. Good news.
Yeah. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, a new addition to Trooper David DeLate's memorial. We'll show it to you. It'll stand tall in his honor.
And coming up later in sports, Scott checks in with the Grizz basketball men who play at Stanford tomorrow night.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green.